Hi, I'm Linda Deir, the author of Guided. Her spirit guide angels were her best friends and life coaches. Guided is my true life story and winner of the 2017 International Body, Mind, Spirit Book Award. Since before I was 2 years old, I've seen, communicated with, and even photographed my spirit guide angels. In Guided, I use my own life as a template to teach you what I have learned from these loving, intelligent spirits. Most importantly, I show you how to make the connection to your own spirit guides and angels so you can live a guided life, a life free of fear and doubt, the life you intended to live before you got here. In my guided journey, the companion journal to Guided, Part 2, page 17, I will talk about we have been waiting for you to be ready. Our friendship is rekindled, and your confidence has returned. The struggle has ceased since you stopped chasing things. Feelings of lack are leaving you. You are beginning to see what we see. You are beginning to realize that those thoughts, ideas, inspirations, dreams, and insights you thought were coming from you were coming through you from us. So let's get started. From what you have learned about this mysterious intuition and the years you spent playing with it, you are actually beginning to get the hang of this. It's happening because you're learning to discern between what's coming through you as opposed to what's coming from you. Knowing this difference was only possible after reflecting on what you have documented into your journal. You can easily see the difference. There have been times when you received important intuitive guidance that you didn't write into your journal because you acted on it so quickly. Other times when you neglected to write it down, you lost it completely. While you are learning to take action when the guidance is the most effective, you are also learning to never take it for granted. This requires that you write this timely guidance into your journal, date it, and keep it in chronological order. This process will never fail to work. You will always be able to refer back to the guidance you received. You will know when it's guidance and when it's coming from you. From taking the first 2 steps, you will master the action you need to take at just the right time. With all this working for you, your life will improve as you begin to see the big picture and not just the short-sighted instances of success. This includes seeing things for what they really are and not just what you want to see or believe. As you've heard me say many times before, there are always consequences to your choices. You could choose to ignore the guidance you receive through your intuition and experience the associated consequences of missed opportunities. Or you could act on that guidance in a timely manner and benefit from those opportunities, causing reactions from the people or situations in your life. This is one of those times when you will not be able to avoid seeing people for who and what they really are. Many times, this will make you feel very disappointed. So you only have 2 choices. Either choose to miss it by not acting on it, or experience it by boldly stepping into it. Welcome to a life of consequences that you were never clued in on until now. This is when not taking things personally will come back into play. Incorporating this added dimension when making critical decisions brings the journal writing to the forefront. Are you beginning to see how important this journal writing has become in your life? It's your best friend, the friend who will always tell you the truth, letting you decide if you want to act on it or not. We point you in the right direction, but you have to walk that way. The tricky thing about having an open line of communication to us and using your intuition to capture it is that you may not always like what you are receiving. If you insist on playing it safe rather than stepping into the flow, you will eventually push us away. However, because your soul remembers why you came here into this life, it is relentless about seeing you carry out your life purpose. By always feeling a hole in your soul, it reminds you that something important is missing. This feeling is what will eventually overcome the dilemma of the consequences associated with stepping into your guidance and aligning with your soul's purpose, producing the life you intended before you got here. And like always, we have Ray.
The off-camera talent. Say hi, Ray.
Hi, Ray. And he's going to ask some pointed questions about what I just talked about to really help you guys connect with this. So when you start writing into part 2, page 17 of My Guided Journey, we have been waiting for you to be ready. You will be able to write it with clarity, with truth, and from what you know, not from emotional energy and from the standpoint of being a victim. All right? So that's where we're going with this. So here you go.
Okay. You said early on the struggle has ceased since you stopped chasing things. Can you clarify for everybody what it means to chase things?
It's okay. When most of us humans are chasing things, we've been programmed to chase things, believe it or not. You know, you always are reaching for something that you don't have. It comes from a feeling of lack. And, you know, the media is always throwing it at you. Advertising's always hitting you with it. People that look at you, they size you up and they think, well, that's not a very pretty outfit today, or your hair doesn't look that good, or there's always something, or you're not doing a good enough job at work. Your performance is inadequate, whatever it happens to be. You're in a relationship and your mate's looking at someone else. It's like it's never ceases to end. So as long as we're looking out there for validation, we're chasing things is what it means. We're looking out there instead of in here. Instead of connecting with ourselves. And if any of those number of things happen, for example, if you're at your job and they tell you that your performance is not up to par, then you may not like your job. Maybe your performance is not up to par because you don't like your job. The guidance in that is telling you that pay attention to the fact that your performance is not up to par. It's not that you're not good enough. It's not that you couldn't do better if you really liked it. All right? So it's guidance letting you know. It's like a report card to yourself, letting you know, you're really not happy with this situation. So you really need to look for something that's more suited to you. That's what it means. So.
Okay, so on the same topic, chasing things are really driven by a feeling of lack. You lack this, you lack that, you lack a new car, a better job, a better maid.
It's an insecurity.
It's an insecurity, okay. Is it necessary then to stop chasing all these things or these outcomes or goals before you can rekindle the relationship with your guides?
Well, what I'm going to break that down. Where what needs to happen, if you're busy chasing things, then you're distracted. And if you're distracted and you're looking out there for your answers, it doesn't even come to mind that you have help always with you. Your guides are with you, right with you, always ready to help you. If only you can slow down and quit letting these distractions run you around. It's like chasing your tail. You can't seem to stop doing it. You really have to come to the point where you realize it, you recognize it. When you catch yourself doing that, you have to write it part 3. And now I'm stepping out of bounds here. We're actually on part 2, page 17. Part 3 is the journaling, where you track your progress. You document what's going on in your life, whether it's guidance or whether it's you almost getting guidance because you know what to do. You know where you're messing up. You know where you're getting in your own way and tripping over your shoelaces. It's just that you haven't figured out how to stop yourself long enough so the guidance can reach you. Take it in part 3 and start writing in there where you see yourself getting in your way. Start doing that. When you start to do that and put it in here, write it in here, date it and keep it in chronological order. The next time you have something come through, the fact that you put it in writing, the next thing that comes through could be guidance. It might be the next thing or the time after that, but you're getting closer. You've got to start writing this stuff down, you guys, so you can, it's like your own report card. Once again, you are tracking and documenting what's going on with you so you can catch yourself. All right?
So it seems like the more connected you get to your guides, you're rekindling this connection you had at one time. This chasing things will kind of naturally stop on its own.
No.
No?
It won't. It won't until you do this. You've got to write and I'm stepping out of bounds again, part 3, where you do the journaling. What Ray said, it's such a knee-jerk reaction to chase things, okay? To think if the boss says that your performance is not up to par. To feel that hit you and take it personally. And oh my God, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm going to lose my job. That is absolutely the wrong reaction. You need to listen to the boss and he says your performance is not up to par. It might shock you. You may feel hot. You may feel upset with yourself because that's an old pattern. You're not going to break it right away. Write it into part 3 of the journal, all right? The journaling. And document it and date it and just leave it there. That's a gift to you that's waiting for you to understand. Write it in there. And when you write it in there, you don't write it from an emotional victim standpoint. You write it from the truth and from what you know. It's clean, it's clear, it's not mucked up with drama, okay? Or guilt, or I'm not good enough, or lack, or oh my God, or any of that, all right? Clean that off. That has no business in here. Write it in there just like it happened. The boss said your performance wasn't up to par, or the love in your life said, you know, this relationship isn't working, whatever it is. Write it in here as it happened, just like it happened. And don't go into your drama, because through the drama, you can't find the answer. So you write it in here. The more clear you are and purposeful you are with intention to write it down into your journal, so it's now documented. The sooner your guides, which comes from total clarity, will be able to reach you and guide you, and you will know it's them. So you just can't take it for granted, expect it. It won't happen like that. You've got to start doing the moment-to-moment work and putting it in your journal and having it documented. If you don't start there, it will never start. You'll just keep, no matter how much you tell yourself, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to let that get to me again. I'm not going to go down that road again. I'm not going to feel the lack and the insecurity. Yes, you are. You are. Until you do this and you start taking those baby steps, will you come out of that and come out the other side of that and see what's going on. And that's one part of it, but the really cool part is when you do that, your guides are going to begin to come through, and you're going to know it's them. And you are going to take your life and everything about you to a new high. Everything will get better. So it's practice.
It is. It doesn't help that you're constantly bombarded by advertisements and TV and
Turn it off.
right, because those are reminders of all the things you don't have.
Right, turn it off. Turn off some of the things that you've been doing that are old habits. Just release them. Just turn some of them off so they're not screaming at you, and continue to work in your subconscious mind and degrade what you're trying to achieve. All right?
All right. Let's talk about shelf life of guidance. You mentioned that sometimes you get guidance and you've already acted on it before you even had a chance to write it down because it was kind of like immediate.
Right.
Hesitate. Don't step off the curb. Here comes a speeding taxi. Other times, you don't write it down for a while, and it just kind of, you forget about it, or you do write it down and you don't act on it. So the shelf life kind of varies. Is right? Would that be cool?
Well, the shelf life, it depends. I mean, once you get this intuition, your intuitive muscles starting to build, all right? That's how I describe it. And you start working with your journal and you start building documentation that you write into your journal about in part 3 about what is going on in your life. Even if you're not getting guidance, start with documenting what's going on in your life that you see is a bump in the road. Something needs to be smoothed out. Something needs to be worked on. Something needs to be improved. Something needs to be addressed. Something you don't understand yet. Write it all in to part 3, the journaling part. There's an limited amount of pages you can print out to do this journaling. And you guys, and keep it in chronological order and date it. It's going to be your lifeline. I really mean that. It was my lifeline when I was a kid. And we're coming into more, the times we're living in are very uncertain, and they're getting more that way. You need to start getting connected with yourself so you know how to respond, what to do, how to act, and how to help others along the way. You got to do this work to find out, where are you? What is your baseline? How effective are you in making this connection to your guides? You need to find out where you are first, all right? So your question was, Ray.
That was kind of a two-part question. The shelf life kind of varies depending on how urgent the guidance is. But how do you know if it's a longer-term guidance? How do you know when it's time to start, when you should start acting on it?
You're going to know, and only you are going to know it, all right? When you start journaling. I can't say it any better than that. It's not a two-dimensional question or answer to your question. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be able to answer that question. I've had guidance come through, almost all of the guidance, and from my own experience, that I receive is something you act on right now. You go into action right now. When I was guided to write, I didn't write the book until 20 years later, until they woke me up in a dream and told me I was going to write a book about my relationship with them, that they appeared so the world could believe. Okay, it all happened in the same time frame in 1994. And I didn't write the book right away, but I'll tell you what I did do. I had a lot going on. I had 3 different businesses going at the time. I didn't have time to sit down and write a book that I'd never even written a book before. But I knew how important it was, the way that they came through and what happened and how I woke up from it. I woke up right out of a dead sleep going, oh my God, I know that this is important. But I also know that my life is still playing out and that this is on the front burner. I mean, in the future, it's going to show up. I'm not sure when it's going to show up, but they will let me know. And they did. I sat down one day at the computer and I just started writing. I started writing about my life. And there's 28 chapters in guided. When I hit chapter 9, I went, oh my God, this is the book they told me I was going to write 20 years ago. And here I am writing it. And it only took me, now this is not a small book. It only took me 4.5 months to write this book, first book, right? And it's been a bestseller. So who would ever know? And self-published, I mean.
And award-winning.
Award-winning, right? I know.
New author, first-time author, first book.
The point that I'm making is The guidance doesn't mean, in my case, where I didn't write the book until 20 years later, I was moving in that direction, all right? But I knew when I got the guidance it was really important, but it wasn't right now. I knew it. But then I always had this connection with my guides, right? And how do you do that? Oh, Linda, you've always had that connection. How can I ever do that? This is how you can do it. This is why I tell you in part 3, write what's going on in your life on a day-to-day basis so you can begin to see the guidance bleed through it. It's going to start showing up. They're going to start making themselves more obvious, not because they haven't always been there, but because you are more aware. That's the difference.
All right, so let me see if I understand this. Whether the guidance is short-term or long-term, a key component would be it's better to do something right now, but however small, to get you moving in that direction.
Right, exactly. That's right. Okay, so there were other times when I got the guidance, with business. And whatever they were telling me, it's time to get out of what you're doing because it's going to fall apart. The economy is going to fall apart. The economy didn't fall apart for 18 months after one of the incidents, but it took me that long just to get out of all my investments and all my projects and sell them all and close them all and get out, all right? So it was guidance that I followed that made what happened 18 months from then not take me down, all right, and have me out of harm's way when it happened. Or when I got into it at 19 years old when they told me that my marriage wouldn't work out, that I needed to find my own way, make it on my own. And I was disappointed about the marriage, and making it on my own. I stepped right into it. Success hit like so fast because it was all in the timing. And it happened in the throes of a recession where I stepped into this new business I stepped into, and it was golden. Under normal conditions, anybody in their right mind would have been shaken in their boots. They wouldn't have taken that chance. I had guidance. It pointed me in that direction. It was time. The time was now, and I did it. And it worked out great. And at the time, when the 18 months before the markets crashed, they told me to get out. And I literally got out a few months before it all went down, before it all crashed. So it's guidance. It doesn't happen the instant that, that they tell you, but they give you the time you need, the lead time you need to act on it. They know how much time it's going to take for you to do it. And so you've got to step into it and get it going, like Ray said. Get the ball rolling. Right.
Take a first step. Take a baby step. Move that direction.
Right. That's right, Ray. Yeah.
And then 18 months down the road, you'll be where you were supposed to be.
Right. Right on. And out of harm's way.
Right.
Or in a new opportunity, whatever it happens to be.
Okay. Moving on. You talked about expecting only like what you want to hear versus seeing and accepting things as the way they really are. What makes people default, that's the only word that comes to mind, default into only wanting to hear what they want to hear versus accepting things as how they really are?
Well, the truth about things isn't always easy. If you have to get really real about something because the burden's on you. Let's say you're the one in the family that everybody depends on to move them in the right direction, to make sure that there's a house, a roof over their head, they have a place to live, everybody's sound, and everybody can function to their highest because you are the performer. You're the one that always comes through. You're the one who takes care of all the details and the income and whatever, okay? So this person takes care of everything. And there's all these dramas and traumas going on in the house. The kids, the wife, the brothers, the sisters, the mother, the fathers, the grandfathers, the grandmothers, everybody's doing what they're doing. And this one person's carrying the load. And they see things for what they are. Okay, they take and they put what's called a family trust together to protect their family. I know this because this is what Ray and I did. We put a family trust together. And when in doing that, and the will and everything you do, in case something should happen, that you've taken care of everything. And when doing that little family trust, I realized, I'll speak for myself, even before I met Ray, when I did it, when I was alone, I had to take a real hard look at my daughter and go, all the things that this trust would require her to do, to be responsible for the assets of the trust and to manage the trust, and she couldn't even begin to do it. Wouldn't even want to. So I was kidding myself by thinking that, it would just all work out this way, the way I'd like to believe, the way I'd like to think it would be, and everything will be fine. When you get down to brass tacks and you start having to do things like that, you can't help but look it in the eye. You can't help but look at the characters in your family and go, okay, well, there's who do I pick to be the responsible one? Who can live up to this and take care of this and carry on should something happen to me? All right? That's when you have to look it in the eye. Or what happens if anything could happen? Your mate leaves and you've got 3 kids. Oh man. Okay, now what do? Can you just say that everything's going to be fine? And these children who used to be kind of spoiled and they you didn't really get on their case too much, but you're waiting for them to get around to seeing it for themselves or whatever. Time has run out for them, and it's time for them to grow up. You have to take care of making the food at night because I'm working all day, and you have to wash the clothes, and you have to clean the house, and the maid had to be fired because I can't afford the maid. Your dad's gone and we can't afford it. Okay, and reality hits, right? I'm going back into that same idea, where unless you were under the pressure to see things for what they really are, really everybody just would have gone on the way they did, kind of oblivious to each other, and never having to get real about a situation and grow up, I guess. So that's what it comes down to. So you start to see these people, you depend on them now. You guys, I can't carry this on my own. I'm working all day, feeding you guys, housing you, making sure that you can still go to the schools you want to go to and everything like that. Get your iPhones when you want them, whatever. Okay, and you guys have to perform on your end because I cannot do all this. That's when you know what the truth is. And it's disappointing many times. So that's where this is going. What do we have, Ray?
Well, we have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
How do you train yourself to see things as they really are without all your judgment getting in the way?
First of all, you quit worrying about what somebody's going to think about you. Quit taking things personally. If you did the work, if you wrote down the truth and you tracked your own self, okay, you're going to know where you stepped into allowing that to exist in your life and where you tolerated it. And when you did, it didn't help anybody else. It didn't help them. You may have been trying to be nice and you want to be apparently liked and all that, but it's not your parent. And when you're a parent or whatever you are, it's not an easy job. You've got the hard job. You're the bad guy many times, okay? Because you have to lay down the hard truth so that they grow up to be people that can handle this life, right?
Right.
And face things for themselves. If you're not facing things and looking at them for what they are, how can any of the people in your life do that? They're just as delusional. I mean, you raised them or whatever, right? You tolerated it. You allowed it. We
Right.
have to look back at ourselves and why this played into your life. It also could be where people absolutely will not accept responsibility, and that is not your fault. You tell them, you have to do your part. You got to. This is a family. Everybody plays their own part and contributes and helps out. And one of them just goes like this: "No, I'm not going to do it," and they just won't do it. That is not your fault. That's the personality trait of that person. All right, and so they have, it's their karma, their life. They're going to have consequences with that if they can't cooperate and work with other people and get along and contribute and be a solution and not a burden to the cause, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about consequences here in a minute, but one more question before we go there.
All right.
What's the opposite of seeing things as they really are? Is it like making everything up? making stuff up?
Even when you think you're not making them up. And that's really what happens.
Those are opposites.
They are opposites, right?
You'd like to be able to see things as they really are, but
You'd like to believe that.
you'd like to believe it, but you don't want to hear anything bad, so you make stuff up.
You close your mind. That's what that is. You close your mind. You can't face reality. And you can't get away with it anymore. I mean, humanity, people have gotten away with this for decades. And it's at the point where people don't know where the line is. They don't know where it stopped and changed and became a certain way. They just know where they're at, and they don't remember what happened, okay? Again, part 2, what we're on today is we have been waiting for you to be ready, page 17 of part 2. And it's about this part of the journal, part 2, page 1 through 18, is taking you back to your life so you can see where you got off track, where something that got into your head at a young age has been with you ever since. And you've been playing it out like an old record that's so out of date and worn out that it's just time to go back and look at it and go, oh, I see where I came up with that decision, ill-equipped, 5 years old, 7 years old, something like that. I mean, you didn't have the information and you made a snap decision, and believe it or not, you're still living by that decision. This will draw it out of you. This will expose it. So you can identify what it is and pull back from it and go, oh, I see this now. You're seeing it now with all the information now that you're older. And you can say, okay, I see how I made that decision. I'm going to ponder that, and I'm going to realize that when that comes up in my life, I'm going to get quiet instead of pouncing on it and having the first comment, the first opinion, and I'm going to stay quiet, and I'm going to let it all play out so I can observe and I can do things better from now on, from more information, from who I am now.
Okay, let's talk about consequences. A lot of people have a connotation of consequences that they're all bad.
True.
Like Mr. Holly, you continue to do that, and there's going to be some major consequences. I heard that over and over in school.
You did?
I did. But all consequences are not bad. A lot of them are good.
Right.
A lot of them are not the one you expected, too.
For example?
You weren't able to go somewhere or do something or get that job that you always wanted, and you felt that was a bad thing.
Right.
But you found out 5 years later that
the consequences of taking that job
would have been
Right.
horrible.
Right, would have taken you into a different direction, one that was way less
Fulfilling.
less worthy of you, and so there's consequences no matter what you do. When I come up with many things in guided where the guides came through and warned me about the consequences, or let me know the consequences, or I realized them myself. And there were always consequences. I mean, when I was a kid in school and I saw the kids beat up the other kids, the bullies, pick on the little kids, and I would fight those bullies. I would not let them hurt those kids. It was like watching a puppy get kicked. I could not stand it. Okay, so none of the other kids stepped in for whatever reason. They may have been afraid, or they may have pretended they didn't see it. Okay, the teachers did that, and a lot of that. So when I stepped in and I fought those bullies, I made it hard for them to be a bully because I got in their face. I got kicked out of school for it. They punished me for fighting. Most of the time, those kids that were the bullies, they didn't get punished. I did. Okay, and so when they hauled me into the principal's office and asked me, why did you fight? What was going on? I said, well, they were bullies and they stepped in, and I stopped it. And they said, well, you should have come to the principal's office. You have no right to butt in. You had no right. Okay. And so by that time, you go to the principal's office, you wait for the principal, you might have to make an appointment. It sounds like a complaint. You complain about this problem on the school grounds, and then the principal says, well, we'll look into it. And by then, the kid that needed the help is all bloodied up, hurt, banged up. He's really in a mess. And you know what? I didn't have time to wait for that. I guess it's the bureaucracy I didn't have any patience for. And I didn't think that they really cared. And they really didn't. The way they looked at it in the 50s was, you know what? You're all kids. Work it out. You know, you're on your own.
Toughen up.
Yeah. And so I didn't see it that way. And I stepped in. And I got kicked out of school a lot. I did. And they called me a bad kid. They called me stupid and ugly. Okay, those were the three key things. I was okay with all of that because I knew I personally couldn't take it. I couldn't stand it. It'd be like you going to work at a job that you just couldn't stand, how people treated each other. You couldn't stand it anymore. And you just have to go find another job. It wouldn't matter if you made less money or what. There's no way you could live under those conditions. So there's going to be consequences. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was labeled one. Those were the consequences.
Yeah, I think
Get over it.
There's consequences to everything. There's consequences to ignoring your health to the point where you get sick, and there's consequences to winning the lottery.
Right. Or going to the gym and 3 times a week like what we do, and it's a real pain in the neck. We have got to get away from our work and go to the gym. Come on, we got work to do. Okay, but you know what the consequences are if we don't? Not willing to see that happen. We've got, a lot of runway because we've taken care of our health. There's always consequences, no matter what it is, Good things.
Consequences kind of are tied to taking the responsibility for something.
That is the truth, Ray. That is really right. What you said is right.
If you take responsibility for
yes,
taking care of family members, say your parents died, and taking care of the family members, then the consequences would be you'd be spending all your money.
That's what happened to Ray.
Right.
Okay, that's what happened to Ray. It wiped him out. All right, but he did what he felt that was important to do, and the consequence would have been watching his mom, fall into whatever situation, and then Ray couldn't live with himself. So
I sent my brother to college.
I know you stepped up to the plate, Ray. Here's the point. I do not regret anything that I did personally, where I paid a consequence. You're going to pay one anyway, okay? If somebody runs out, they go to run out in the street, or they're drowning, okay? They're drowning in the water, and nobody else jumps in. Well, you don't have to jump in, but really? Is that really? Can you really live with yourself if you don't go? Really? It might even risk your life to do it, but can you live with yourself? All right. So there's consequences.
Either way.
Yeah, it's there. It's there. So here's the point, you guys. The life is filled with consequences. Quit letting it scare you. Okay? And, okay, you go into business. I'm just going to use one more example. You go into business. You're so excited. You love this. You get the opportunity to do it. The business didn't work out. Oh, my God. The economy went against you. Whatever. You didn't know as much as you needed to know. You didn't know that. Now you got to go bankrupt. You're in society. You have been programmed to punish yourself, to feel extremely guilty and feel like a failure. The truth of the matter, it's one of the last best options for the individual to come out of a situation where they can start over new without being in it. Before, it used to, like hundreds of years ago, it was debtor's prison and you couldn't get out of it, right? Now you actually get to get a second chance. So quit being so hard on yourself and judging yourself and feeling like you weren't good enough. You're fine. You're fine. You went in there. You gave it a good shot. You know what? The next time you do it, you're going to pull it off. because you're not naive the next time, okay? So quit being so hard on yourself. Quit letting this life scare you and expect consequences.
And quit hiring your relatives.
That's probably
Most of small businesses fail because they hired their relatives. All right. So, okay, looking at journaling, writing down your guidance, okay?
yeah.
In a way that's studying. It gives you a way to study
Yourself.
Study your guidance and determine, is it coming through you or is it coming from you? And do you recognize it for what it is without judgment? Or are you putting judgment on it?
Or do you recognize it for what it is, or are you putting judgment on it? I don't get what you're saying there.
Okay. Do you recognize it for what it is? Do you accept it?
Okay.
Oh, I don't want to hear that. Like
Okay.
you. Your marriage is not going to work out. I didn't want to hear that.
Well, I didn't, it wasn't that I didn't want to hear that. What happened to me when that happened when I was 19, I was disappointed. I was sad. Of course I didn't want to hear that, but it wasn't like I said, I don't want to hear that. The truth is the truth, okay? It is what it is. And they gave me the information. I was because I'm so connected to my guys, I'm so grateful that I can actually receive it when it comes through, okay? It's not always what you want to hear, but it did turn out to be true. And it was like 8 years later or 7 years later, that it did fall apart. And oh my God, what was going on with him, what he was doing, you guys, read guided. It's all in there, all right? Yeah. And what I realized, and the guide saw everything. I didn't see anything, you know. I was living in La La Land. Oh, you know, I was busy building homes, building our family home, and, you know, doing all this stuff, building a perfect life, right? Perfect life. And there's no such thing as a perfect life, right? There's your life. And there's your ability to handle the truth and face the consequences and be okay with it. And you know, I would have done it all over again. How about that? Because what I did and what I got out of and what I learned and the things I got to do was amazing, okay? So it was not a misguided situation to be in that marriage. It's just that it wasn't going to hold up for the long term. And my guides let me know that. And when they did, I took a pause. Of course, it throws you back. And I always journaled. I always had my journal. And I wrote in there, da-da-da-da-da. This is my guidance. And so if I ever tried to cheat, second guess it, you know, pretend it didn't come through, it didn't happen, I couldn't get away with it. I couldn't even fool myself. You guys, if you want your life to start working better, really working out, having this relationship with yourself and your guides, this is where it's at. This is how you're going to keep yourself from kidding yourself. All right? It's going to be so much easier. Your life is going to work out so much better.
One more question on the taking it personally thing. I mean, I'm shocked that people actually say, as part of their conversation with you, now I don't want you to take this personally, but, and then they lay this big dose of criticism on you. I mean...
That's interesting, Ray.
And like I said, well, do you want me to be honest with you? Let me be honest with you. Well, it's kind of like, you haven't been being honest with me up until that point, you know, but they say, I don't want you to take this personally, but, you know, and then they lay this big dose of criticism or complaints on you.
Okay.
I mean, how do you get people to stop that?
How do you get people to stop?
How do you stop taking it personally when they come right out and tell you, I don't want you to take this personally, which is setting you up to take it personally?
Well, it's not setting you up to take it personally. What they're doing when they say, I don't want you to take this personally, but I'm going to tell you, blah, blah, blah. Okay. What they're really saying is, I don't want you to blame me for telling you what I'm about to tell you. Okay. So that's what they mean by, I don't want you to take this personally. Don't blame me. Don't get mad at me. All right. Well, they don't want you to take it personally. And, you know, if you do take it personally, it really won't help you. The only way you're going to break this habit is starting to write it in here. Today, somebody said to me, I don't want you to take it personally, but I'm going to tell you all this stuff about yourself. And you just let them, this is when you get quiet. You get real quiet. Because there's two things going on. They're telling you something that may or may not be true. It might not even be true.
Right.
But until you write down what happened in that moment into your journal in part 3, now we're bouncing out of part 2, page 17 again, because we're getting closer to part 3 where the journey part, page 1 through 18 in part 2 is almost done. We're on page 17, so next week's going to be the last page of part 2. We will have covered all those pages. And then comes part 3, the journaling, which I'm moving into right now, is you've got to write in there what they said. Okay. You still may not be able to not take it personally. That's okay. But in this journal, in part 3, you write in here what they said. You leave your mind open. You stay open. Your only job is to stay open. You write in there what they said. You date it. You write how it came through, how you felt, what happened, and you stay out of it. Okay, you just write down, because you still don't know how to take it personally. You have not mastered that yet. But you're working on it, because you're starting. You're starting with writing down what it was that you felt like you wanted to take personally, but you know it's not the right thing. So write in there what they said to you. From a unemotional victim standpoint, from the truth and from what you know, from what you heard as it happened, not what you made up, not where your feelings are hurt and you're going, none of that. No, no. You write it in here just like it was said. You remember exactly what your only job is to write in there what happened, and you stay out of it. That's the only way you're going to break through taking things. And you know what? They might have said some things. It's none of their business what you learn, but they might have said some things that you needed to hear. They may have, but maybe all of it, not all of it's true. Okay? But you need to take the stuff out and the stuff that's true, take a highlighter and highlight that one and go, okay, I need to work on that one. I'm never going to, I don't need to tell them what I'm working on. I don't need to tell them with their criticism what I learned from them. I'm not going to pump up their ego when, they could have done a better job in conveying that to me. They could have been more compassionate and more loving with me. And my lesson here is to not only spot it, work on that, but to, when I see that in somebody else, that I never deliver and convey that message like it was conveyed to me. All right? I know from experience I could do a better job. If I see that in someone else, I could actually help them. I could keep them, because they're not going to know what I know. They're not going to have this journal. They didn't read guided. They don't know what I know yet. So it's about being compassionate and kind and considerate to other people so they can open their minds and get it, right?
So this taking things personally kind of sets off a whole chain reaction.
It does, right?
It can force you to question your beliefs.
It could turn you into, it could make you rebel so badly. You just go like this, and you will not hear one more word. No. Okay, it's like the little child. No, I'm not going to hear it again. I'm not putting up with this. I'm not going to listen to you. You're not the boss of me. All that. Okay. And you just go into that childish type of mode. That's what most people do. And they stay stuck there, just like they got stuck back when they were 7 years old or something, when they first started choosing to behave that way, when they made that decision. That decision's not working for you. It doesn't work. It's just keeping you where you were back when you were a little kid. And that's not going to work in your life. That's not going to get you where you want to go.
Can this taking things personally all the time be a sign of like low self-esteem?
Yeah, it is, Ray. It is. Because you had your feelings hurt. You've sunk into something that's despair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that's what it is. It takes you down. It doesn't leave you with much. There's not much there. You're in a bad spot. Yeah.
So this is kind of like you read other books or you hear other people say, well, all you need to do is love yourself more. Yeah, if somebody told you, well, stop worrying about what other people think about you, that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, you have to.
How can you stop thinking about how other people think about you?
What else can I say? Every time you get hit with what somebody may say about you and what they think about you, all right? And it bothers you and you can't seem to get past it, write it into part 3, the journaling part. Date it and talk about how it felt, but don't write it. Don't write it from pity pot. Write it like it happened, just exactly word for word how it came out of their mouth. You write it in there like that. Then you could say, and this hurt my feelings. I took it personally. That means that's what you're working on. You're working on that type of thing. How much truth was in it? When you're by yourself and you write in here, right? When you write into your journal what happened, when you do that, your guides are with you when you're getting that real with yourself. Because you see, you guys, your spirit guides and angels, they don't come from illusion and not being able to handle the truth. All they know is the truth, and all they know is love. Love and the truth to them is the same thing. So the sooner you get to the truth in yourself about yourself, the sooner you will become this love that's a one connection to everything, and have that connection to your best friends, your guides, okay? That's how this really plays out. So every time you write in here, you write the truth, the absolute truth, and nothing but the truth about what happened, and you write it in your journal in part 3. And part 2, as you work through your journey, page 1 through 18, you're practicing on how you go about telling the truth to yourself. When you can tell the truth to yourself, then you can hear the truth. Then you can accept the truth and the consequences that go with it. Then you will be more like your guides, and that bridge, that connection will be made.
Yeah, you stop worrying about what other people think, and that every time somebody tells you something that you're being judged or criticized by them.
And here's the point. This is something that is very hurtful. And you can hear it in Ray's voice where it makes Ray upset when something like that happens that's directed toward him. It's so easy to feel that, okay? But it doesn't help us. It's not about forgiving that person. It's got nothing to do with that. It has to do with forgiving yourself, okay? And in doing that, you work this process, you work through the process, and eventually you see your own flaws, where you got drawn into things that did not benefit you, that did not lead you into the life you intended before you got here, did not satisfy your soul's purpose. It's not why you're here. You know you're missing the point. You're missing your life, okay? Enough is enough. Start the work. Start with part 2. Do the work. On Linda's website, lindadeir.com, you go up to the blog and click on it. And when you get to that blog page on the right, you'll see categories, and you'll see My Guided Journey, and you'll see all the archived videos on each one of the pages, page 1 through 18 in part 2, that we've already done on the videos. So you can start at any point you want in the journal. Start on page 10 and go back to 1 and then go over to 18. Jump around any way you want to. But get started. Find out who's in there, who it is that you buried underneath all this criticism and fear and anger and hurt and pain and not being understood, and nobody seemed to appreciate you, and all of it, okay? And start finding out what happened to that real person that's buried underneath all that hidden knowledge, that real you that's residing underneath all that junk, that stuff. You're going to be clearing it off. You're going to clear it off because you're going to get down to what really happened, and you're going to write it in there. And once you're all done writing it all in there, you're going to be able to look back and go, oh, yeah, I see it now. So I see when I react a certain way now in my adult life, where it's coming from. It came from age 7 when I was in second grade, and that time in the English class when she told me to come up to the front of the class and read, and all the kids were just sitting there like this, ready to criticize me and laugh at me and make a fool of me or shoot spitballs at me, and and not taking me seriously, and didn't appreciate me, and didn't, wherever it came from. All right, you need to get back there, find it, identify it, check, and realize that's what happened, so you can lift the burden and get back into that person, that pure person you are, and go from there. Bring that person back up. And that's the person that you bring with you now, that you work on now, that you bring to life now, that you let breathe and live now, okay? So you don't miss your life, the one you intended.
You become a lot more self-confident when you stop
Yes.
taking things personally and suffering for nothing.
Yes, and you're not even mad at these people who get in your face and they just go, and they want to hurt you, and they want you to hurt because they're hurting. That's really what it is. Misery likes company, and that's what that is. And you guys, there's a lot of misery now. Oh my God, you get in your car and they're screaming at you, they're flipping you off. They're honking at you. They're
waving their gun at you.
I mean, it's crazy now. So you have to really get yourself right, and that's what this is. That's what this will do. Actually, you need to read guided first. You really, really do, to understand what this is, how I did it, how I lived it, what I experienced by living it out and seeing it all through. I wrote this book when I was 60, okay? So, I mean, at that point, I got it together. So you don't have to go through all this, all right? You get the journal, you read guided, and boom, you're going to be off and running. You're going to get this worked out. It won't take you long. But you are going to see some things that you don't like, and you're going to get used to it. You're going to see things that you don't like about yourself, about other people, about whatever, and you're going to handle it completely differently, constructively.
You'll find things that you're afraid of or ashamed of, or you're also going to find some things you're really proud of.
You are. And you're going to, most of all, you're going to understand your fellow man. You're going to understand, and woman, you're going to understand why they are hurting like they are. You are. You're going to see it with a compassionate heart. But one thing you're also going to see is you can't go where they're at to help them. You can't, because if you go where they're at, they're already in their pity pot, in their emotional energy, in being a victim. You can't become a pity pot, emotional energy, and being a victim and help them. You've got to be truly yourself. You've got to be who it is that you have learned you are, and you've got to just listen to them. Let them vent. Let them say what they need to say, and then ask them. See, this is wisdom. This is what you'll learn. And then ask them, do you want advice? Do you want any, feedback from me? You have to ask them. They may say no. If they say no to you, they want to be here. They want to feel bad. They like to do this, okay? Then you have to ask yourself, do I need this person in my life anymore? There's a consequence. You see things for what they are, right? And you know what? You'd have to walk away. Consequences. It's a choice. It's not drama. It's not making things up. It is what it is. You see it for what it is. And you make a decision based on what the truth is. Truth and love. And you don't push it on them. That's love. not pushing it on them is love. If they want the information after you ask them if they wanted it, that's also love. If they ask you and they say yes, okay, and just be considerate with your delivery. That's all, because they're people. They're sensitive. They don't need another blow, I guess is what I'm saying. And you can reach them without hitting them like that, right? Yeah.
Okay, we're at the end of our hour, and I have no more brilliant questions to ask you.
You had wonderful questions, Ray. After next week, not next Thursday, but the Thursday after that, we're going to wrap this all up with an interview with Ray. And Ray's going to talk about what it was like to
go through these last 18 weeks and go through
the journey.
Part 2. The journal part.
The journey part. Yeah. And take this journey as far as being the one that asks the questions, okay? So when Ray asks the questions, he feels more like you guys do when you're looking at this than myself, where I had a very unique situation, where I had my guides by my side all the time, and I knew it from the time I was 20 months old when they saved my life. So, and from then on, it's just been, we've had a tight connection ever since. So Ray comes from a point of view where you guys largely are, as you look at this and go, hey, wait a minute, that made me mad. Wait, he gets upset. So, he's coming from a different point of view and asking these questions in certain parts, certain videos. You got a little heated up once in a while.
I did.
I know.
I have flashbacks.
I know, Ray.
I have flashbacks of...
just like you guys.
Where you take it personally. Yep. It especially happens in your job. Those quarterly reviews or those 6 months performance reviews, and they say, well, you did this well, and then they say, well, here's all the things that you need to improve on or you didn't do well. I mean, I took that personally. I mean, I felt bad.
I know.
But now I see the difference.
I know.
Now I would tell my boss, well, that just reinforces what I told you when you hired me. You'll never find another worker like me.
Well, it's not that, Ray. That's Ray's being a comedian right now. That is not what happened. What really happened is Ray, in that particular situation, he got laid off from his job. The whole department did, and he just happened to be part of that department. They just flushed it out. But he felt fired. Ray said, I got fired. He took it personally, right? And he took about 3 months off just to ponder what, it kicked him. It was like a horse kicking him in the head. He really took that hard.
I'd never been fired from a job.
No, that was very, but the whole department was laid off, Ray. And you took it personally by saying, I was fired, Well, that's a little bit of a stretch, a lot of a stretch. If you were going to write that situation in here, that's not how you would write it. The department got laid off, and I was one of those people in the department. And my job was obsolete. And that's really what happened in this situation. Ray's job became obsolete, and that part was just, they were disposable. And
I became obsolete.
You did, absolutely. So here's what happened. 3 months, Ray took his time, and he started his own business. And when he did, it was within 1 year, he tripled his income in that 1 year.
And wish they had fired me sooner.
Okay. See what I'm saying? How he didn't need to take that personally. If he had written it into his journal, if he was keeping a journal at the time, he would have looked back at it and go, wow, I didn't need to be upset like that. It was a gift from the universe. I was being guided to move out of that situation because it wasn't good enough for him. All right? See, it's not what we think things are, you guys. That's the whole point.
Took it personally and only saw bad consequences from it.
Right. Because, see, Ray was raised with a lot of criticism, and in his upbringing, in his family, in his community, in the church, and the whole thing. Okay, it was just driven right into him. So that's why he uses humor to get past some of this stuff, because it's just too much. How do you deal with it? Well, humor doesn't deal with it. It kind of just patches over it, and it doesn't really deal with it. But it makes him feel better. It's a release valve for a moment.
Is.
Okay, is what it is. So, but it doesn't fix the problem. This fixes the problem. This is how you get down and dirty with this thing, and you get in there and find out what the heck is going on, and you fix it once and for all. It's not superficial. It's not the law of attraction or something like that. It is the truth, okay? It's truth, and it's self-love. When you do your journaling, this is self-love, is what this is. There couldn't be a better love for yourself than to follow through on this and get this work done and find out what's back there that's hanging you up right now, that's preventing you from having the life that you intended. So
I wish I would have had that long time ago.
I know, Ray, I know. Next week, we're going to be doing page 18 of part 2, and it is the last one on part 2. You are not alone. I have written a series of videos in support of the readers of my guided journey for the flagship book, Guided. Each week on Facebook Live, I will talk about your journey back to the beginning when you first made contact with your spirit guides and angels. They haven't gone anywhere, even when you ignored them or didn't realize they were there. In these Thursday Facebook Live videos with me, you learn how to journal your hidden knowledge, documenting your life journey, revealing who you really are and why you are here. When you follow this, you not only get your life back, but you will never doubt yourself again.
We'll see you next week.
We'll see you guys next week.
Be nice to each other.
Yeah.